One time I stayed at a hostel and a guy sleptwalked during the night.
I think it's always on the back of a woman's mind, safety.
You always have travel insurance. My boyfriend and I both got bit by a rabid cat in Turkey.
I always want to share, trust your gut. As women, I feel like we just have an innate ability to understand when something feels off.
Hey guys, Caitlin with Gravel here, and happy International Women's Day. On March 8th, all of the world celebrates the power of being a woman. And so here at Gravel, we of course want to do the same. So you are about to hear some solo travel tips from women who live all over the world and have traveled all over the world. I'm so stoked to share this video with you, and all of their contributions speak to different points of being a woman while traveling around the world and things to look out for, but also the joys of solo travel and how it's such a unique experience that you don't want to miss out. So let's get into it.
I'm Juliana. I'm from Brazil. I haven't lived there in about 30 years now, so I have been traveling all over. I lived in the US, UK, France. I'm in Dubai now and moving to Spain. So I have traveled a lot personally. Unfortunately, though, the first thing that came to mind was just negative thoughts. I think it's always on the back of a woman's mind, safety.
It is
Yeah.
unfortunate that that is literally our first mindset because
Yeah.
it's something men just don't have to consider. It's like,
Yeah, so in safety, I immediately thought the end to end of the travel. So, like getting to a place by yourself, you're taking a taxi, um, or if you're in public transportation, I would always try to see if nobody's following me because they noticed I'm alone. So, immediately you're a target. Or if I'm in a taxi, I try to have, if you're in travel internationally, have roaming so you can put the location you're going to. So, I'm trying to follow on the map that, nobody's driving me off
right.
the route. And I also do a fake call, like, yes, I'll be there in 30 minutes or so, thanks for waiting for me or something. So the driver would think, okay, someone is waiting for her. So if she doesn't get there,
Mm-hmm.
they will notice she's missing.
They will be
It's so
alerted.
crazy. Like, you're
Sure.
something
It's
else.
crazy, but it's just true. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy, but it's also not crazy. Like, being a woman, it's
Yeah.
like, yeah, I do that too.
Being alone too, I think like the positive sides is that sometimes when you're someone with a group, you are into your friend or family and in that world. And a lot of times when you're traveling alone, you can notice much more of your surroundings, and also mindful of the safety, but more open into talking to other people. And there's a little bit more of exposure there to make new friends or learning more about the culture. So that
Totally.
part, there is a positive there. That is a plus.
My name is Emily, and I have done a lot of travel solo, particularly in the domestic United States as well as Europe. And I've traveled almost every mode. I've gone on solo road trips, I've gone long haul flights solo, I've done a lot of travel both for work and for pleasure, where I'm either meeting up with someone or I'm not. The tip that I wanted to share the most is the thing that I've learned as someone who used to be a very, very anxious traveler. I am diagnosed with an anxiety disorder, and for a long time, I thought travel was sort of the most triggering thing that I could possibly do. I was very, very anxious when I traveled, especially when I traveled solo. The biggest tip that has helped me is not seeing travel as scary and not seeing the small things that happen while you travel as scary. Because what I realized is when you get anxious, that's when you're actually at risk because you make bad
True.
decisions. When you're freaked out, that's when you leave your phone in the bathroom stall and can't find it. That's when you miss your connection because you couldn't figure out where you were going because you were so anxious. Our brains make really stupid decisions when we're anxious. I think my biggest tip for women traveling solo is to really cultivate a sense of calm about the things that go wrong with travel, because things always go wrong. But what I realized is that almost everything that can go wrong in most travel scenarios is actually not that big of a deal. And if you cultivate that sense of calm, however that looks for you, like for me, it means taking deep breaths, telling myself that losing my bag is not that big of a deal, or everything can be worked out, will help you stay in that sense of a sound mind that actually keeps you safe. And I think remembering that is what has made solo travel not only more fun for me, but actually genuinely safer because I'm making better decisions.
I'm Sydney Reeder. I've traveled to 33 countries, and one thing I don't travel without is a deck of cards. Always ready to play
Ooh.
a game. The type of mindset that I like to put myself in when I'm traveling to a new country is like, what would people who actually live here be doing? And man, Google Maps is my best friend when I'm overseas. And like, where are the places that are less touristy? And I think like it just takes a lot more research and a lot more planning than like what people expect.
Yeah.
So I know for myself, like, when I've planned some international travel into Europe, you have your places that are like, oh, I'm going to Paris. I have to go to the Eiffel Tower. I have to go to like this Rue and this. And like, sure, yeah, go there. But I just don't feel like you get the authentic experience if you're just limiting yourself to going to the places that like are so I don't know, they're like so iconic and it's great to see, but then it's also like, man, what do people who actually live here do?
I'm Carrie. I am a 30-year-old living in New York City. I have traveled to 30 countries. It is always my goal every year to have been the same age as the amount of countries that I've visited. Solo travel for most of these. Sometimes I've met people there, but I've always kind of been the person to like go there on my own. I always want to share, like, trust your gut. As women, I feel like we just have an innate ability to understand when something feels off. And I guess along that route, if you're traveling by yourself and it's a new country that you're unaware of, stay at a really nice hostel. I feel like people don't talk about this enough, but especially when you're traveling alone, hotels can be abhorrently boring. Like, you tend to stay by yourself in a room and you don't meet people, especially like if you're not a drinker or you're not someone that like naturally is an extrovert. Even me, as someone who is an overt extrovert, hostels are a great way to meet people from a lot of different like backgrounds and
Yeah.
socioeconomical standards. There's just like a lot of fun things that you'll meet, people that you'll meet at a hostel. And they'll also do a lot of group activities, such as, touring the city that you're in or, bar crawls. There's just a lot of fun things that they'll do. So that's a big one that I always recommend. I've never had a bad experience traveling by myself. I've never been to a country and then like everyone's horrible to me.
True. Yeah, same.
Yeah.
There can be that one person or whatever, but it's like it never becomes like the story of the trip, which is good.
Yes. And I always say this is a big thing too. I always say you are the weather maker. You get to dictate how people can treat you as well. Because if I'm like nothing but kind to you, there's very few people who would treat you like crap because if you're kind to them. And
So
so
true.
just be kind.
Yep.
Everyone deserves kindness.
My name's Jenna. Oh, that's cool. I like the little
I don't know
thumbs
how
up.
that happened.
It encouraged me a little bit. I'm a photographer. I work mostly with families and weddings here in Orange County, LA area, but I do travel. Most of my travel was for like editorial purposes, which is pretty interesting. And I loved it. It was so much fun. But most of my travel was within the United States. I've only been out of the country a couple times. I send my parents my entire itinerary. It makes me feel safer. It makes them feel safer. They're not asking me a billion questions. I've also seen so many crime documentaries where like just knowing information is so helpful. So flight information, where I'm staying, if I'm going for an event, like what the event is, where the event is, my person of contact. Usually like when I'm at the airport waiting at my gate, I will send them, here's my flight info, when I take off. And then just a whole ass paragraph, and I'll CC like my grandma on it. Like everyone has all the information.
The whole family
they know where
knows.
I am. Yeah, and then it's also like information like, "Hi family, love you. Here's what I'm doing." So like they know if they
Totally.
need something. Like I'm not in town right now. But also I think just being a girl traveling alone, those are like nice details to have. And then putting your parents at ease so they know like, oh, my daughter's traveling to Timbuktu, Arkansas.
Hi, I am Jess Mack and I'm a photographer and a musician. I am from Australia. I lived in England for a few years, and I lived in the States for 8 years. Now back in Sydney, and yeah, I love to travel. Okay, I think my number one travel tip is to be prepared for the version of you that is so tired and doesn't have your brain about you like you normally would.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking ahead is the best way. So have your list, everything that you need for that future version, and all the thinking ahead of all the stuff you're going to need. Okay, so I will say pack early. I like to pack a few days early, and then I've got time to take out what I actually don't really need, because I do tend to overpack. And I go, oh, I don't need that, I don't need that. And then by the time you actually are going to go, then you're down to exactly what you need.
I'm Jordan. I am with the Mobile Homie on Instagram, and I have been to 34 countries, and I've been traveling for the past year, pretty much full time. My top like safety ones: travel with like my Birdie alarm system. It's like this big, and you can hook it onto like your fanny pack or something. And basically, if you pull it, it just like lights up, and it's like an alarm. I mean, it just kind of screams. Just because when you're traveling internationally a lot of places don't allow pepper spray. My other tip is to always have travel insurance.
Do you recommend a specific travel insurance?
I've used World Nomads and I've used Safety Wing. I've had good experiences with both. My boyfriend and I both got bit by a rabid cat in Turkey.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was like a whole experience, but having the travel insurance really helped us because you could like talk to their team of doctors. It was literally a whole ordeal because we had already booked flights to like other countries. And so some of the countries we were going to, like rabies was eradicated. And so they don't even give the vaccine. So we literally you have to get like this course of 4 shots over like,
oh, wow.
I think it was a couple of weeks. And so it was seriously such a hassle to like have to, and you can't just Google like, where can I get a rabies shot as you do that here? Like you just there's no information. And so you really just have to like show up and find a place and ask. And so the only other way we were able to like kind of get information was by messaging the Safety Wing medical team. And like we were messaging them and we were like, hey, like, is this brand rabies vaccine okay for us to get? And like, where can we go to get it? And like they were able to message some people. So that was kind of nice. It's so cheap. Like literally it's like $40 a month. Like I know that sounds a lot, but like when you're only gone for a week, it's really not that much. You pay like $20 and you're covered and you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Because
that is great.
I don't know. It's just being in a country alone, like dealing with this, it can be a lot.
I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you're not subscribed already, make sure you do that. And of course, if you have any tips yourself, make sure you comment them below. We'd love to chat with you. And we're just so stoked to be building this community and highlighting some of the amazing women who make it all possible. So we'll see you in the next one. Peace.